My dear love, I'm realizing many things about my life and about love. And in this letter of mine, not only I want to thank you for contributing to those realizations, but also I want to tell you how grateful I am to God for making us connect in this life. I realize that my growth as a person has become fast-paced ever since we met, and more so when we were into separation. That phase, which I always regret deeply. Since the beginning, as long as I can remember, and I mean in this life, I knew that what we see and hear around us might not be the complete truth. There was a race that everyone was into, and many things and people lacked authenticity. There were many fears, and anger was getting pent up within me because lack of answers. I didn't really know what was right and what was wrong, so I followed the others around me who had material success. When I met you, I felt that you are not a part of this race, and neither do you care about it. There was something refreshing about you. I didn't know what exactly you were doing because you were a mystery in many ways for me. But looking at you, I surely felt that you were different from other people. Even though I knew I had my own people who were there to support me, but growing up in the world around wasn't comforting at all. And you may not know this, but I had to work hard even to find a ground to establish my existence. I felt I had to make efforts to be likable, and I had to fit in. There was also the pressure of fitting in with the best, the it crowd. There was a certain amount of sadism I felt in my life, and the only person I could rely on was my own self. So I decided to give maximum attention to my own self. Soon I realized that I could escape from the harshness of this planet by getting into pleasures. It became a habit pattern for me, and many such habits, certain addictions, unfortunately stayed with me. I could not do without them. When I saw you, I felt that you didn't have any such bad habits or obvious vices. Neither did you ask anything unusual from me. You weren't like other girls who were crazy about shopping, getting drunk for no reason, or hanging out with people just for time pass. You were in your own world, and that made you look busy. You were natural and organic, and other women looked processed and synthetic. My love, you felt like a breath of fresh air in my life. After living the way I was living for so long, I realized that probably something was not right about how I was existing. When I saw you, I was inspired to change my lifestyle and let go of my inhibitions. I was way too much into myself. The problem is when I say myself, I don't think it included the word self. The only thing that was included in that equation was I, me, and myself. So when I saw you, I had a feeling that you were not like that. Even though you were not making things very obvious about yourself, but there was something different about your existence, your being. My ego had become very strong and mighty, and if I hadn't met you, I would have never realized that. Anyone or anything that made me feel that I had an ego, I used to find them extremely unreasonable and would show them the exit gate. Of course, it was you who spoke to me in such a way that my ego was very hurt. And that was the maximum someone had hurt my ego. No one had shown me the mirror, my own egotistical personality, the way you did. The truth was that I was also shown the exit gate by many people. All my short-lived relationships or equations, they were just a materialistic barter that somehow helped my ego, but it hurt my soul. You, on the other hand, you were helping my soul and hurting my ego. But I didn't see it like that. At that point in time, I treated you like my enemy. And I have felt sorry for doing that many times, and I have regretted those words and those decisions I made many, many times. Back then, the constant rejection piled up for a long time hadn't yet taught me a lesson about my false ego, or that ego is itself a false concept. I had enough, but I was still not ready to face that I had enough. Though no one or nothing could stab me out of the false reality I was living in, but I know that deep within I was very done, and I wanted to know what was really wrong with the way I was living my life. I followed my way or the highway mantra, but I did not know what the higher path or actual highway was. I was definitely living a facade. Those who walked out of my periphery always had a deal with me, so there was something in exchange all the time. But when I met you, when I saw you, when I spoke with you, I realized that you did not want anything in exchange. I had never met a person who did not want anything in exchange. So I did not understand the value of it. I did not even understand that gesture. It obviously used to hurt me that I used to barter my emotions for physical pleasure, and I felt like an object that comes with a timer, an object that is only meant for fun and play. And it was one of my biggest fears that you were also going to use me or treat me like an object. Each time I got out of any such deal, any such barter deal, I had to get into a phase where I needed to do something. I knew how to get high via intoxicants, how to get into pleasure situations, but I did not know what's the real high in life like. When I had enough, I finally felt that I needed something more than these usual deals that make me feel so bad about myself. In the meantime, I did come across some people who were doing what they loved. It looked like they were all successful, but I realized that they had materialistic pursuits and were successful in amassing those things which made them popular among their own peers and groups. And I thought I should also become like them. So I threw myself into the race, into the rat race. In between trying to establish my status under social pressure and finding someone who would genuinely love me, I met the love of my life, you. Our first conversation was so wonderful. It made me feel so surreal and so happy. It wasn't the type of happiness that diminishes, because each time I remember or reminisce our first conversation, my heart still goes boom boom. I always smile when I think of our first conversation. My soul felt very supported that moment, and I knew that you were someone special and different. All I wanted to know was if you liked me the same way or not. I couldn't do without talking to you or checking on you. And back in those initial days, the communication was very smooth and free-flowing. I felt rejuvenated and relaxed. I was a content man when it came to you. Whether it was meeting you or my own inner state that led to you, I'm not sure yet, but again, it's a deep realization now in retrospection that something inside me awakened when we met for the first time, when we spoke for the first time. Your energy, my love, was something I had never encountered before. I wanted to know all that I could about you because there was a familiarity, a trust that I could confide in you, that you are different. This trust that I could confide in you, or I could share something with you and you will not judge me, it was very precious for me. And I was scared of losing it already even before I had held on to it fully. I knew you were different, unlike anyone I had met. And I felt those were also my days of contemplation and letting go. I feel sometimes a bit somewhat morose because life around me had lost its shine. There was nothing interesting, everything was mundane. Or everything was planned. The 6 months, the next 10 months, the next 1 year, the next 4 years, the next 5 years. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to comply to the shiny objects around me. Because the happiness I felt after connecting with you felt so real. It was your own energy that you brought on the table each time you were present. And your presence was so comforting and consuming for me that I had to take time to come back to my senses. And you know that sensory perceptions had ruled my life. So meeting someone who was away from the sensory perceptions, from the 5 senses, and had a stronger intuition, it felt like something that came straight from my soul. I felt like exploring an unknown realm for the first time. You made me see many new dreams every night. Even when I talk about that feeling, my eyes get teary-eyed. Because I had never felt that type of love before. And it hurts that I let you go right in front of my own eyes. It's not easy to live with this guilt. It's not easy to live with this type of regret for so long. You may think that I'm silent or I'm quiet, but you don't know how much I'm struggling within my own self. Do you think you would have faced me so easily if I was at your place? If you were at my place, do you think you would have faced me so easily? It was very hard to give words to such a beautiful feeling back then for me. I wasn't walking anymore. I was floating. I was floating constantly. And I was floating a few inches above the ground. Your presence felt like magic, and there was a sweet stir in my heart, and it stirred my whole soul, and that vibrated in my heart, and those vibrations in my heart that filled my whole body. The rest of the world, all the people were just the same, the regular mundane people, but you were so real and so tangible in my world. I could carry your essence around and I could hide you in my thoughts. Your thoughts were like sweet fragrance, and I would smile from within even when I was with the most boring, worldly people. And they would think that I'm a rather optimistic person who has a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eyes. But actually, it was your presence and your essence and your thoughts that used to make me feel like this. And when you were gone, or when I felt that you were gone, I was minus of that feeling. And everyone could see that I was so dull and dejected. I don't care about what others think. I don't. I do care about what you think, and I do care about what I think. Unfortunately, I did all the wrong things that cannot be changed, and I do have this guilt that despite having such a beautiful energy around me, I listened to those people and I walked up to others for advice who somehow mocked me for being so smitten by you. So that was the time when I used to care about what other people used to think, but I don't do that anymore, and I will not do that anymore. They made me feel it was something wrong to fall in love with you. They made me feel that love itself is something wrong, or that real love never existed. For them, you were like a mirage that I was running after. And after listening to their mocking words or their negative talks, I started fearing the same thing. I felt that maybe everyone was feeling the right thing and I was the only one who was wrong. Now coming to this letter, which is about my realizations. Number one, I realize that this materialistic world is simply a facade, and thanks to you and your stubbornness to not take my bad behavior, I understand this facade even better. What I did can't be changed, but even if it was my own decision to walk away from you, I wasn't happy either. And this feeling of emptiness, this hollowness itself, it led to my real understanding of how I was feeling without you. So in some ways, I'm not now complaining about it. I did complain a lot about it. I did feel very upset on my own self. I was angry that we used to fight, but the worst thing was the fights happened because of my mistakes. So you can imagine what I felt later on when my fears had subsided, when the separation was longer than I had expected. I felt very embarrassed of what I had done, and this realization could not have happened in the space where we were talking to each other, I feel, because I got some time to make the comparisons between the feelings I had when I was in love with you or I was accepting you fully, and the time when I wasn't accepting you fully. Your essence and your presence versus the time I was fighting against your thoughts, and the time when I was accepting your essence and presence are two completely different feelings. I used to hold many grudges against you because I had a very big ego. I have been reading about it a lot lately, and I have realized from my personal experiences, in many situations, I feel that it's very important to take a stand for your own self. Even if you have to fight for the whole world, fight against the whole world for something that matters to you. Because I have seen you taking up fights. I have seen you, I thought that you used to fight with me, but boy, when you have some purpose, you can really stand like a rock. You are like a mountain that nothing can break. And you have inspired me in many, many ways. And from my own personal experience, I realized that I need to make my own decisions. And I need to stand for myself just the way you stood for yourself. As long as you could take my bullshit, you took it. And when you did not feel like taking it, you just vanished. And you became very solid in that situation. You never called me, you never messaged me, you were just gone. And that made me realize that even I need to take a stand for myself and for my feelings for you, because You weren't wrong. I once wasn't wrong. We just simply loved each other. I felt that I kept mixing ego and self-respect. And I know both are completely opposite of one another. I felt sorry for taking you for granted for a long time. But none of this mattered to me when I was full of myself, thinking that I was making the right decision by walking away and walking all over you. And obviously I went through the most horrible punishment. I suffered a lot. You weren't there with me. And the crazy part is that I wasn't even willing to accept that I was suffering without you unless I started stalking you day and night. When I started stalking you day and night, and when I wanted to find out more and more about you, I knew it was time that I should get out of my denial. I knew that I had to tell myself that what I'm doing is utterly confusing. If I hated you so much, then why am I thinking about you? If I did not like you at all, then why was I stalking you? If I didn't want you in my life, then why was I going through all your pictures and all your videos and everything that you were sharing? If I did not love you, then why was I missing you so much? I questioned myself as to why do I want to know about your whereabouts, about what you're doing, or if at all you didn't want to do anything with me anymore. Why did I care so much about you? Why does it matter to me when I was the one who was running away from you, when I was the one who walked away from you? Why did I act that way? So nothing, literally nothing felt right to me without you. And for months and for such a long time, I had already lived in denial of my own feelings, and I was done being in denial. I used to think that you were immature, and gradually it started dawning to me that I was no less. I didn't want to listen to your words. I had already made my own assumption, that you were wrong, when I knew that you were not wrong, and I realized it much later actually that you were not wrong, you were only trying to help me and be good to me. I had already anticipated that I have to protect my heart from you. I took everything so personally, every single word you said so personally, because my ego could not differentiate between what was genuine and what was fake. The same people who had mocked me when I was head over heels in love with you and totally smitten by you, they continued to mock me even when I was regretting my poor decision making of going away from you. The same well-wishers who told me that I was acting like a fool in love with someone mocked me for letting you go. I could not understand what they wanted from me. They blamed me and they said that I could not explain it to them how much you mattered to me. And only it was my lack of conviction that made you go away. They said to me that I should have followed my own heart, that I cannot decide for my own self and I need other people to take my own decisions. That's it. That's when I understood that they're just copying me, or they're just showing my confusion to me. My own confusions. All my doubts and suspicions were based on what I had grown up listening to. I thought love has to happen in a conventional, linear fashion, and I lacked patience big time. I wanted you to act like a machine who would follow some step-by-step procedures, who had some kind of coding done, and after some time had passed, I feel guilty and lame for everything I did. And I am becoming the man you deserve to be with, not the pessimistic doppelganger version of me, not the one who was impatient with matters of the heart. I am working on myself, and I will present myself to you in a way that you would meet the real me. Not a guy who's ruled by fears. I know things won't be the same, but I also know that things would be better, and I'm very sure about it, because I love you now and beyond.